Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the virtual program today, Better Newsletters, creating newsletter content that gets read with Katy Harper Doss. I am Brittany Spillman. I serve as the Carey Center Director of the Community and Collegiate Program. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank this year's Community and Collegiate Program sponsors who have pledged to support our efforts in providing meaningful programming for the nonprofit sector. Thank you to Auburn University Outreach, the Community Foundation of East Alabama, the River Region United Way, KPMG, Auburn University Outreach Office of Public Service, the Drummond Thornton Stooks Fund for Excellence, and a community service grant made possible by State Senator Randy Price and State Representative Joe Levern. Katy Harper Doss is the owner and principal at Here Molly Girl, a full-service marketing and design firm based in Opelika. Katy and her firm work with businesses and organizations to create thoughtful, creative, strategic marketing that prioritizes unique end goals and objectives. With more than 20 years in the marketing industry, a knack for cutting to the chase, getting results, and an insatiable appetite for helping others, Katy has worked with clients throughout the U.S. in industries ranging from healthcare, oil and gas, retail, manufacturing, nonprofits, and more. Katy founded Here Molly Girl in 2016 and has grown the business to become a premier marketing firm in East Alabama and beyond, with more than 60 clients. Katy's honors include being named the 2020 Young Business Person of the Year by the Auburn Chamber of Commerce. Katy, can you tell us how to create better newsletters with content that gets read?
I am going to do my best. Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be presenting to you today. Looks like we've still got some people joining. This isn't going to be super formal because I know that questions are going to pop up during this. And so feel free to just interrupt or send a chat message. But thank you so much to the Carey Center and to Sid and Brittany for allowing me to do this. We have been working with various nonprofits really since the beginning of this business. And it's some of my favorite work to do because there is such a need for every organization that all of you represent. So I am really excited to be presenting to you today. So we are going to get started. And again, feel free to put a chat message up or just shout out if you have a question, and we're going to have lots of time at the end for questions. So I'm going to share my screen. And we are going to assume that you can all see that, but if you can't, let me know. And let me make sure that I've got my chat bar showing. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to assume that everybody who's on this Zoom sends e-newsletters for your nonprofit. And with good reason, even though email statistics in general are declining, nonprofit email communication is still a really effective way to get your message across. Brittany did a great job in introducing me, so we're just going to skip right over that. Let's go through, oops, how do I do this? Okay, there we go. PowerPoint sometimes gets tricky. Okay, so the average email open rate for a nonprofit is actually almost 26%. That is huge when you take into consideration that the universal open rate of emails is 6%, and that number keeps declining. But what this tells us is that people take the time to open emails from nonprofits. If they have taken the time to sign up for emails, I know that if you're like me and you're about to order something online, you're going to sign up for emails from a company to get the 10% off, get the coupon code, and it's really a one and done thing. But most people who are signing up for emails for nonprofits have shown a real interest in your mission, who you're helping, what you're doing. So I really think that overall, that is the reason for that. 69% of nonprofits worldwide regularly publish an email newsletter. 25% use email subscribe pop-ups on their website, which is a very effective way of increasing your email list. And then just as far as frequency of emails, 41%, and y'all don't have to write all this down. We're going to send this out afterwards. So don't feel like you got to write all these numbers down. 41% send emails to supporters and donors monthly. Monthly is probably the best frequency as far as a newsletter with one or two other email correspondence in between the actual newsletter. Okay, now what do we do? Okay, so let's talk about the biggest mistakes that you may be making with your newsletters. And a lot of this happens because nonprofits do not have a flood of money coming in for the marketing, right? So you may be running your nonprofit and training volunteers and updating the website and doing the social media and all of those things. So these are some tips and some things that you may be struggling with. The biggest mistake that we see with nonprofits when we help them work on their emails is there is just too much text. People have very short attention spans now more than ever. And what we see is that if you are writing in paragraph form, nobody is reading that. You really want to break those paragraphs into small bullet points. And within those bullet points, make some of the key words either bold or a different color. So let's say that you have, you're sending your email newsletter and you're giving a few stats about what you accomplished the previous month. Let's say that you increased number of volunteers by 20%. Rather than writing a paragraph that says, we were very excited that so many people wanted to volunteer with ABC organization. We had a 20% increase in volunteers over last month, which means we can help more people. The better way to get that information across is to have a bullet point that says increased volunteer numbers by 20% and bold that 20%. That's a number that's going to get people's eyeballs on it. And when they see that 20%, they're going to say, what's 20%? What did they do? I've got a little example here. So I haven't used any examples from anybody local because I did not want to call anybody out. Now, I have used a couple examples in this presentation of emails that we've done. So I just did a deep dive into nonprofits worldwide and just pulled some good and some bad examples. The Austin Parks Foundation, they seem like nice people. I don't know what they do. They've got a little welcome, that's fine. And then they've just got one or two sentences in here next to images and then links to read more. Rather than including all of the text, they're giving you just enough to kind of whet your appetite and then read more. I would actually improve this by bolding some of these words in here that really are the most important thing. And then I would also make this text left justified. Humans don't read centered paragraph text very well at all. We read like we read a book where everything's left justified. So try not to center your text. But in general, this is a short little bit of text. I would even probably make some of these into bullets. Whereas this apparently is the Redwood chapter from the Sierra Club. You don't have to raise your hand, but think to yourself, how many of you in your current e-newsletters are having a long message from the chair or the director? I hate to break it to you, but it just doesn't get read. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. I know that you have lots to say, but we need to find a different way to say that other than message from the chair. See how this is it's just gray. And even though there are smaller, short paragraphs, every single one of these starts with in 2019, in 2019, in 2019, in 2019. Most people are going to glaze over this. We've got 2018, a year in review. That's just text. Humans just don't read this. So as you're compiling content for your newsletter, look at what you're writing. Even if you start out with a paragraph, look at what you're writing and think, okay, I am not allowed to write in paragraph form any longer. How do I break this into the fewest words possible and bullet that, and then within the bullet, bold items? So that is the too much text is the number one mistake that we see nonprofits make in their newsletters. Number two, and just about everybody is guilty of this, and it's a hard habit to break, providing updates rather than valuable content. So what do I mean by that? Of course, you need to update your audience on what you've been doing, but there's a way to do that and a way not to do that. You want to make sure that somebody is going to enjoy reading your newsletter. So think about it like this. You are asking your followers and subscribers to trade their time for this content. Think about that for a minute. Think about how valuable your time is and how valuable your subscribers' content is. You want to provide something that when they spend 3 or 4 minutes reading that, they think, that was good. I enjoyed that. I learned a little bit. So this is an example for a newsletter that we do. This is for Advancing Sight Network in Birmingham. They are the state's eye bank. So when you register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, these are the eye people. We send out newsletters for them monthly. This one happened to be the one from May. So we have Mother's Day coming up. We have a short, just a short little paragraph here about basically a mother who passed away, was able to donate her eyes and things like that. We've got a memorable video that is a quick 30-second soundbite from a donor family member. So someone who has lost a loved one, and what it meant to them to meet the person who got their loved one's eyes. And then we included a recipe for a pineapple delight. Now, why on earth would we do that? Because this now is valuable to somebody. Well, we asked some people associated with Advancing Sight Network, well, what do moms like to do? Moms sometimes like to share recipes. Can we get a recipe from someone connected to Advancing Sight Network and share it here? It's just sort of a way to thank the people who are taking the time out of their day to read your newsletter. You may not like Pineapple Delight, but it's a cute way to say, we're connecting this with Mother's Day. We're connecting it with Advancing Sight Network because this recipe is from, I can't remember who. Yeah, okay, so Sarah. So this person in the video, this is her mom's Pineapple Delight recipe. So it all connects. And then, we just want to make a quick little partner with us to restore sight. And again, feel free to jump in if you have questions. So rather than it all being, here's what we did, here's what we did, here's what we did, think through, how can I turn this around a little bit and provide something that's valuable to our audience? And you can look inward to your team a lot too. And you can share certain tips or pieces of information. Martha, I'm going to pick on you a little bit because you're at the very top of my screen and because I know you. So Martha Hank from the Food Bank. We all know and love the Food Bank of East Alabama and what they do. It may be that you want to offer some kind of tip about food storage for the food that we're not donating. I mean, just something that is sort of adjacent to your mission that can still be seen as an added value. Maybe it's even, when you are donating food, these are the best containers to bring it in. I don't know, just something like that. So I'm, had to pick on Martha there. Ask yourself, will my reader enjoy this? And really think about it outside your organization. And I have to do this for us too, when we're doing our social media. I try to think, okay, like this is important to me, but will my followers like this? Will my readers like this? And if you're really honest with yourself, sometimes that answer is no. And so what can you do to make that content a little more valuable? Okay, biggest mistake number 3 is not connecting on a personal level. Humans connect with humans and animals. So if the Humane Society is on here, they connect with animals too. We want to make sure that we are telling compelling stories, that we're tugging at heartstrings, and we're showing the potential impact of a gift or time, whether you are asking people to donate money or donate their time. No matter what nonprofit you're running, however you are helping others, there are stories to tell. And we're not saying you need to write some, 1,000-word essay about how you've impacted a local child. If you can get a quote from someone, if you can get 3 or 4 sentences, a great photo to make things a little more personal, that is going to connect with people. So yes, you can share, this month we fed 800 people. That's great. But it makes a bigger impact to say, this month, one of the 800 people we fed was John. And John had not had a meal in 3 days, and, whatever the outcome was. So take that big number, the number that of people you're helping, of animals you're rescuing, of children, you're providing a service to, and you can say that big number, but then pull it down into one and try to say, of the 1,000 people we gave backpacks to, little Jimmy took his favorite book to school in his backpack and was so excited to show it to his teachers, that kind of thing. I know it can be hard to get people to share their story with you when it's going out to everybody, but what we have found when we've worked with nonprofits is that if you are finding a couple of people a quarter who you have helped, and you say, you sharing your story with us, if you get them to be on video, great, but even a few words, we're going to be able to help other people like you. So set a goal for yourself to try to find 2 individuals per quarter who you can say, hey, can you give me a quote? Can you, give me 5 bullet points about, the impact of this organization, it really goes a long way. Wait, okay, yeah. So my examples here, and not all of these are great examples for every situation, but I don't know what World Reader is. I assume they help people around the world learn to read. So thanks to supporters like you, Angelo can do what he loves most, read. So I'm sure that World Reader has helped lots of people in addition to Angelo, but they're bringing it back to a very personal level. And you see this little boy here, looks like he's reading something. It's linking to a video. That really tells a story. They've got a little bit of information here. This is 7-year-old Angelo and his mom, Leslie. They're from Chancay, a small city in Lima, Peru. That is much more compelling than we helped 8,000 people learn to read this year. This is another one from Advancing Sight. This mother lost her son in just a tragic situation, and he was able to be an eye donor. She wrote a prayer for donor families. So this is something that she wrote that we decided to share in a newsletter. I think this was from February, because this is our little mascot, Walter, the eyeball for Advancing Sight. This is very personal. Help me to cling to the knowledge that through this loss, I can help bring joy back to another. I mean, if you're reading this and you are a parent, like this tugs at your heartstrings, for sure. And then we just have a little bit about her and a photo with her 2 sons and the son that she lost. So it just brings it back to connecting on a personal level to one other person. Biggest mistake number 4, low value money asks. So what is a low value money ask? A low value money ask is help us make a difference. Help us make a difference. How? All of you are making a difference every day. So we want to make that help us make a difference into something much more concrete. I went ahead and blocked this one out because this one, together we can make a difference. To make an even bigger impact, consider making a meaningful gift today. That just doesn't mean anything. So let's say that your nonprofit helps veterans. Maybe helps veterans who've been wounded, something like that. Instead of together we can make a difference, together we can get 50 veterans in new homes by the end of 2023. That is much more concrete. It speaks to heartstrings. It helps people understand exactly where their money's going. So if you are using phrases like, let's make a difference, give today, make an impact, consider revising that to be specific. And let's say we had a question, what is the best way to get those personal stories from people, from Lauren Gifford? Just ask. If you have, people who've sent you emails, people who as you work at your nonprofit, we have found the best thing to do is to just ask and say, we really are trying to tell more stories about the individuals we've helped. Would you consider offering us a quote? Even better, would you consider letting us video a conversation with you? That is a great way to do it, because even if you don't use the video, you get all of these sound bites, and you can use that for social media posts, newsletters, your printed end of year report, that kind of thing. If you don't have specific names, you can always put some posts out on social media saying, we want to hear from you. If you have a story to tell, even if it's something, short that you may not think is that big of a deal, we do. So please share it with us. I hope our internet holds out because it is officially monsooning outside right now. So we're gonna cross our fingers. Okay. Mistake number 5 kind of goes hand in hand with that, being ambiguous. We have found that being very specific about what you need helps generate more funds. So instead of asking people to make a donation, if you can have something specific, let's say that you need a new computer, tell people that. We need $1,000 for a new laptop where we can run software that helps us do our jobs. We want to feed 1,000 people this month. Each meal costs X amount. You may find that you actually get your per person donation amount goes up, because let's say somebody was going to donate $25 and they see something in there. Maybe you have a list on your site of things that you need. We did this for Storybook Farm at one point. One of the things they needed was new horseshoes for the horses. We said each horseshoe is $10, whatever it was. So 4 horseshoes per horse is $40. So somebody who maybe was gonna donate $25 might think, swing 40, and they've given 40. And of course, all of that money goes into, one pot. You're not necessarily using that one person's money to buy 4 horseshoes. But if you can take your goals as an organization and pull out some very specific items that you can ask people to provide for you, it is a really good way to generate more funds. Also, if it is something that you truly need, you may find somebody will donate that item. That happened at one point with Storybook needed like an ATV or something, and somebody ended up donating that to them. So this again, it's kind of along the same vein, but this, I can't even remember what this organization was, but this organization I think fed people in third world countries, and they brought it back to one guy. So it was sort of like, feed this guy right here. It focuses on one person to help. Even though we know that everybody who gets that email who donates isn't feeding John, it helps them have a personal connection. This one says, save Samir from a life on the streets. So is this a stock photo? Probably. Is Samir a real person? Probably not. But you can, even if you don't need a computer or an iPad or an ATV or whatever, bring it back to one person and try to pull at those heartstrings and help people understand my gift can help Samir, Okay, this is the last mistake, and then we have some tips. Our main newsletter as your email subject line. Try to find one really interesting thing that's included in your newsletter and use that as the subject line. Very few people see our main newsletter, oh my gosh, I can't wait to open this. They want to understand what's happening. So some good examples. You won't believe the impact Sarah had on Fido. It talks about a story that's going to be included in the newsletter. Celebrate with us is a great one. Whether you've reached a goal, whether you've, you're celebrating one story of someone who has benefited from your organization, or a very specific goal. Help us reach a goal of feeding 1,000 children. So you can put our main newsletter in the pre-header, but keep your subject line reserved for something specific to that one newsletter that's going to compel somebody to open it. So those are our last, that's our last mistake that you make. So I've got some kind of practical tips. Do we have any questions before we move on to that? I know there are probably a lot of people on this call, so it's sort of like, I don't want to, okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Hi, Katie. How are
Hi,
you?
I can't tell who it is because I
It's
can't see everything.
it's Oslin Rodriguez with Backpack International.
Hey, girlfriend.
I love that part that you said about the backpack with the book. I was like, oh, I'm going to use that.
I saw you pop on, so I was like, who's on here? Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Great tips, by the way. I took a lot of fantastic notes and I got awesome ideas. But the question that I wanted to ask is, do you think that we should be sharing the same content? Because I've heard different things about this and I want to hear your feedback. The same content on our other social media handles. So if we post this video, I have an idea as you were talking right now, because we're getting ready to build a community library. So I have a video of two students. I just asked them, you know, what made you, two students here in the US who collected over 12,000 books. I was like, this is so impactful. And I asked them, you know, what made you do this? Do you have a message for the children who are going to receive this book? So I'm planning to upload that 2-minute video to YouTube. And then I'm thinking this might be a good video to put in our newsletter. Now, do you think I should also put that on Instagram and put it on Facebook? I've heard at this, it's the same information on all the handles?
Yes.
Or should it be different?
Put it everywhere. Put it everywhere. Okay. And here's why. One, ain't nobody got time to create a different video for every platform.
Okay. Okay.
The likelihood that the same individual person is going to see that content on YouTube, on Facebook, is so slim.
Good.
And even if they do, it's just repetition and you want that. So yes, any bit of content, put it everywhere. Put it on social media multiple times. And I know this is not about social media, so I'm not going to go down, but I am going to say social media, unfortunately, is turning into very much a pay to play platform. And so all these organic posts are being seen by fewer and fewer people. Do not be afraid to repurpose content on social media because the same people are not going to see it. And even if they do, they're not going to call you and be like, you posted the same video you posted last week. They're going to see it again and they're going to think, oh, I saw that. And then they're going to think, I've been meaning to make a charitable donation to a nonprofit. This one seems like a good one. So yes, use that content everywhere.
Okay, one other question. I don't want to dominate. I have a ton, but I'm going to save this one and then leave it for somebody else. I noticed that some of the examples that you gave had, it was like a one pager, one video, like one little bullet, not one bullet point, but one focus, very short. Like, so basically the approximate reading time could be 2 to 5 minutes. I don't know, but is that what you're recommending for newsletters?
Yes. You do not want people to scroll and scroll and scroll. You want to link each section, and we're going to talk about this in a second. You're going to link each section to a different piece of content. So
I see.
You may have a short teaser for a story, a blog post that you've written for that section. That's going to link directly to that blog post. You're going to have a video there that they can either watch directly in the email or that's going to link to YouTube. You're going to have your, whatever your donation thing is, that's going to link to where somebody makes a donation. But yes, nobody wants to scroll super long. I usually, and you want to keep everything, quote, above the fold, which is the old newspaper term, but you want to keep it in the top third of your email. I usually recommend no more than 3 sections per email newsletter. In a perfect world, it's a little bit of a success story, something that, that kind of shows off what you've done without it just being like, here are numbers about what we did, a very specific ask, and then some kind of valuable content like that pineapple recipe that your subscribers would find helpful. And
Thank you
then
so much.
you
Thank
are
you. That was
welcome.
awesome.
And then Brittany said, how many email blasts do you recommend sending out a month? I recommend one newsletter a month that's got 3, maybe 4 sections like we just talked about. And then you can pepper additional emails throughout. So for instance, for Advancing Sight, we send out one newsletter a month to
Are you
everybody
outside?
who subscribes.
You're outside?
But then, I think I was listening, I muted it.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then, if you have a specific need, if you have, a video that you've done that's really impactful, you can send that on its own. What you don't want to do is just send emails for the sake of sending emails. You want everything to be really strategic. But I think one a month is it's achievable. It's not taking over somebody's inbox. So that's kind of what we do. And then, of course, if you have some kind of event or like a big fundraiser, of course, you're going to have more emails during that time. So just a couple practical tips. I just sort of talked about this. Design that email in sections. So I'm going to assume that most of you are using either a Constant Contact or a MailChimp or some kind of service like that. It makes it really easy to have multiple sections that you design that can link to other places. If you are designing your newsletter in something like Canva and then importing it into your software, you're only going to be able to have one link because it's going to be one image. So you really want to avoid that. And there's a lot more. It may be good for you guys to ask questions about this. In general, you want to have you want plenty of graphics in your email, but you want a graphic and then some live text. So I've got that as another tip in here, but what you don't want to do is just design one long graphic that's got all your content together, because you're not going to be able to track that. You want to be able to link to multiple locations. And after you've done this for a few months, you can look and see, okay, people are not loving this type of content. Let's replace that with something else. So that's our tip 1. Tip 2, create everything in the right size. If you are creating graphics, they're supposed to be the full width of the email. Those should be 600 pixels wide at 72 DPI. Anything larger than that is going to get shrunken down and you're going to lose the quality, or depending on what email system you use, is going to be so big that the email programs who are opening it, whether it's Gmail or Outlook, are not going to show that. So this is your ideal size. If you need a graphic that's half width, it's 300 pixels wide at 72 DPI. Most of the software will resize it for you. Just save yourself a step and design it in that ratio at the beginning. Design for mobile. 53% of emails are read on a mobile device. That's why keeping some live text. And so what that means is that instead of creating a graphic where you are, like, let's say you're using Illustrator or Photoshop or Canva, if you are putting a graphic and you're typing the text in there, email is going to see that whole thing as a graphic. And so when you're looking at it on your phone, it's going to be this big, and the type is going to end up being 4-point type that nobody can read. The better thing to do is to have your image or graphic or photo, and then put live text in your email system. So if you're using MailChimp, you pull in a card that's an image and text. So whether you're viewing that on a desktop, a tablet, or your phone, people will always be able to read it. So that is super important. Avoid the spam folder. This is one of those that it also involves prayer. So you can, but you can ask people to move you to the primary folder or mark you as important. Every now and then, security, best practices will change for email systems, whether it's Gmail or Outlook or whatever it is. And people who've been getting your newsletters may find that it has gone into, especially in Gmail, the promotions tab instead of the primary tab. There's not a lot you can do on your end to avoid that, but you can ask people to manually move you. We have had success with that in the past, where right before we send out an email newsletter, we will put a post up on social media and we will say, our email newsletter is going out in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, check your spam, check your promotions tab, and pull it into your primary tab so that you can get future ones. Let's see. We have a question. You may have mentioned this earlier and I missed it. What are your thoughts about printed and mailed newsletters? Great question. If you had asked me this a couple of years ago, I would have said, I would save the expense. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think you necessarily need to print every single monthly newsletter, but mail is becoming cool again. And I think it is because Gen Z is kind of new to it. Like, they get inundated with so many digital messages that like an actual physical printed piece is like a novelty. I usually recommend doing one mailer a year that's got your, your end of year report. If you need, if you want to do a letter, giving thing. But if your target demographic is an older generation, you may want to you may want to mail a little bit more often. It is just, it's expensive and postage keeps going up. And even if you get that nonprofit rate, it's a spend. So in my opinion, I think mailing once or twice a year is great. But really, if you find that your demographic is aging out, like, we got to get some younger people who are supporting you. So it's all kind of part of it. I'm not sure I've answered that, but anyway, our practical tip number 5, look the part. So what I hear most often from nonprofits is, we don't have Photoshop and Illustrator. Even if we did, we don't know how to use it. We're using Canva. That is fine. I would recommend a paid Canva account though. They're affordable, and it really will open up a lot more, many more options for you than the free version of Canva. What I generally recommend is that if you are doing a newsletter where you're going to have, an image. Oh, and Brandy says you can get a free pro version of Canva. So there you go. You don't even have to pay for it. So definitely get the pro version of Canva. If you design something that is like an Instagram graphic, so that's sized for Instagram, you can use that on Instagram, and you can also use that as the image in your newsletter, where you've got an image and then you've got your live text next to it. So you're only having to design something one time that gives you your social content and your newsletter content. You can also add that to your website if you are keeping track of your blog posts or stories or tips or whatever that is. So it just makes things it just makes it more efficient for you. So that's our last kind of practical tip. So any questions that you have, bring them on and I'll try to answer as best I can. Anybody? I know we got a lot of people on here and it's like,
I have a question for you.
yes.
And you kind of answered this earlier. I just wanted to make sure I understood you correctly. So you were talking about, like posting on social media or something, like to get people's personal stories, like just reaching out and saying, hey, like we want to hear from you. So what do you feel is the best way? Like I want it to be direct in like trying to get people to answer the question, but I also I don't know. I'm just trying to find like the correct wording. So, aside from saying we want to hear from you, like would saying something like, how has our foundation or organization made an impact on you? Is that like the appropriate way to ask that? Or what would you recommend?
Yes, I would think that. Plus, I would say something like, we want to share your story in order to help more people. So the best way for us to do that is for you to let us know how we've impacted your life. Either DM us or message us or email us or whatever. So you will generally find that, people like talking about themselves.
Right.
For the most part, you may get more than you know what to do with.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can I add something to that, Katie? This is Osland Rodriguez again.
Yes.
I've had success by actually calling people on the phone. Because like you said, sometimes people are so inundated with emails and social media. So look at the people who have donated to you. And I've actually asked them, hey, do you mind just giving me a quote? Or they might be nervous. They may not want to, and you were right. Sometimes they don't want to be on video, but you can still get the sound bite. So I actually had a conversation with a friend. And it's like, okay, talk to me about it. I'm not going to record it, record video, but I have the audio. And it was she felt so much more comfortable saying it without being on camera. So you're right. People are willing to talk about themselves. And I think they welcome the fact that that's another touch point for you as a nonprofit, that personal touch, because sometimes it's like, okay, email, a text, a phone call. Like you said, mail is becoming cool again, but
it's more personal that way too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely is more personal. And you're right. A lot of people are not comfortable being on video, but if you can record their audio, you can also use that to create, a Facebook and Instagram reel. You just put that audio over, images or other video that makes sense. So
that's a good idea too.
Like you take the audio of somebody saying, Backpack International made such a huge difference in the lives of these children. So if you've got some video of kids with backpacks, it goes together. So it's a great way to get some other content.
That's helpful. Thank you, guys.
Let's see. And Carissa, I know you said every part of your newsletter should link to somewhere. Let's see. Linked somewhere. What are some options? So just different places on your website. Ideally, you want each section of your newsletter to link somewhere different on your site. So if you have a blog, you need to maintain your blog. You need to update that at least monthly, because Google does not like a blog that is not kept up. If you're not keeping up with your blog, nix it until you are able to do that. Link to the blog post, link to your giving page, link to your homepage, if you need to do that. But ideally, you want somebody to get the information they need in the fewest number of clicks. Let's see. Lynn, who I talked to the other day, says our audience isn't very tech savvy, so we've been printing and sending out a monthly newsletter in addition to Constant Contact. Would appreciate ideas on how to reach them without mailing monthly. Oh Lord, that's the $1 million question. It may be that rather than if you're printing like an 8.5 by 11 and folding it, put it in an envelope and mailing it, it may be that it's more cost effective to do a postcard, that has a QR code to the newsletter. The only good thing that came out of the pandemic is the resurgence of the QR code. What a comeback. So most people now do know how to use QR codes because they've had to do it in restaurants. If you've got a group that truly is not tech savvy, then I mean, it sounds like you probably need to keep mailing the newsletters. But what you can do is put on one of those printed newsletters, help us save money. If you're able to view this newsletter digitally, we would love to move you from our mail list to our email list and save the printing and the postage. And a lot of times people will, just say, email us at whatever, and let us know if we can save the postage, that kind of thing. Maybe you do a save the postage campaign where you're trying to get everybody to look at your emails instead of getting something mailed. So there's that. Anybody else? I know we got about 10 minutes left, I think. Yes, or you can hire a firm like us, or you can, use a somebody on Fiverr or something like that if you need some help designing things.
I apologize. I got kicked off earlier when I asked a question in the chat, so I don't know if it was answered or not. But I was asking, how many email pushes a month do you recommend?
I usually say one newsletter a month, and then, on the 2 weeks where you're not sending the newsletter, if you have one, one email that you feel like needs to go out on its own, then go ahead and send that. If you've got a great story to share or a specific ask, something like that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tell you what I'm going to do too is, so I've got my contact information here. If anybody wants to get in touch, and you'll have these slides afterwards. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can actually see some of your faces. So, any other questions? Does anybody have anything specific that they've been doing in their newsletter that you want to know? Should I keep doing this or should I scrap this? If you want to be a guinea pig, we'll let you.
I'll jump in again, Oslin.
Okay.
Could you mentioned about, I need a little bit of clarity about segmenting the sections so you can track it. I'm not clear on how to do it. I understand what the different sections are, but how do you do that? That's not clear to me. Maybe it is to everybody else, but forgive me, I'm not so sure how to do that.
When you put an image,
I use MailChimp,
okay,
and I use the different sections, like you said, there's
okay,
an image and there's a text bar, and so that's the format that we use.
Yes. So when you upload an image to MailChimp and have that in your like in the newsletter you're building, you want to link that to something. So you'll see the little link button on there. I think if you click into the image, you can link it somewhere. So let's say that it's a story about, somebody you've helped, and you have that story on your website. Go to your website, copy that link, and you want to add that link to the image in your newsletter. And then at the end of your text that goes with it, so if you have a little bit of teaser text, you can put like a continue reading at the end, and then link that text to the same article. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I was asking earlier if the recording and slides were going to be available after this is over.
Yes.
Thank you. We had someone who wanted to attend and was not able to. Thank you.
Well, good. Yes, I believe Brittany is going to send that out.
And these are excellent ideas.
Well, I'm so glad. We've worked with lots of nonprofits in the area. As you guys know, there's no shortage of nonprofits in our area. So, I love working with nonprofits, and what we have found is that just a little bit of a tweak a lot of the time can make a really big difference in donations, and volunteer hours and that kind of thing. So there are a lot of really attainable ways to really make a huge impact on your bottom line. We do sorry, we do discounted rates for nonprofits, and we've got kind of a discovery engagement program where we sort of put together a marketing plan for you, and can put together that roadmap for your organization that you can then implement. So if anybody is interested in that, shoot me an email. And I guess last call, any questions? One here. Oh, there's Lynn.
I have one. What about, I think if you ever do another one, or if there's time to answer this, a lot of us rely on volunteers for things. And so maybe we could at another time address, how do you get more volunteers? What are some of the things you need to do to increase your volunteers numbers?
So that is a great question. That's probably its own thing. And I will say, if you're using volunteers for your marketing, just make sure that it's somebody who understands the importance. Like, if you need to send out your newsletter or something really important and they got a beach trip, like it's really hard. I mean, sometimes the help is worth what you're paying for it, right? Like we all know that, unfortunately. But telling volunteer stories, like getting your existing volunteers to share a story about, like, yes, I'm helping, but here's how volunteering benefited me. That goes a long way too. Any kind of story, whether it's somebody that you're helping or somebody who's volunteering, really can go a long way.
Thanks.
Well, Katy, thank you so much for a wonderful program today. Everyone, you will be getting an email from me with a link to today's presentation, a short survey, and an opportunity to sign up to be a Carey Center nonprofit affiliate. The Carey Center Nonprofit Affiliate Program currently serves over 245 nonprofits in Alabama and beyond, and offers educational programming, professional development, and networking opportunities to nonprofit professionals. You may have heard about our Carey Center Nonprofit Summit, our volunteer internship and career fair, or our mix and mingles. The Carey Center Nonprofit affiliates are the first to learn about our upcoming programming, and membership is free. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at one of our other virtual programs this summer or in person in the fall.